Today, I'll be sharing my top 20 favourite watches that I've reviewed this year. I've handled almost 100 watches throughout 2023, so if a watch has made this list, it means that it's definitely worth your attention. From watches that cost as little as $20 to incredible watches that are bursting with details. These are my top 20 watches of 2023, so let's do it. The watches featured today will be ordered from least favourite to favourite, so make sure you stick around till the end to see what my top 5 are. Now, the first watch featuring today is actually the most affordable on this video. Now, there's not many good watches that you can buy for under $20. The only real watches that you can get around this price point that are even worth considering mostly come from Casio. However, when I picked up this Sanda Tank, it's impressed me to say the least. This is a watch that can be picked up from AliExpress for way under $20. In fact, it's actually closer to $10. And what you get for that stunningly low price is quite insane. Yes, this watch is just a Cartier Tank ripoff, but when you factor in how cheap this watch is, I think that this little Sanda Tank is something pretty special. It only has a chrome-plated brass case and a mineral crystal and basic quartz movement, but the supplied strap and deployant buckle are great for the price, and the printing on the dial is incredible for the price that you pay. You'll find links to buy some of the watches featured in this video down in the description. I wouldn't feel comfortable making this video without including this next watch. The Casio AE-1200, aka the Casio Royale, has to feature today. Yes, this is a watch that's been available to buy now for a few years, but technically I did only review it this year, so it can feature in this video. Over 30 time zones available with just a few clicks of a button, a 10-year battery life, 100 meters of water resistance. This is a Casio that deserves to be in any collection. No matter if you collect Rolexes and Omegas, or you collect Seiko and Tissot's, this watch would not be out of place in any collection in the world. It can do way more than all of the multi-million-dollar Swiss watches, and the design of this watch is super cool. Sticking with the affordable budget, this year I reviewed the cheapest Japanese brand automatic watch. I'm talking about the Citizen NH8350. This watch is relatively basic in terms of the specifications on offer. It does only feature a Miyota 8000 series movement, mineral crystal, and 50 meters of water resistance, but it's the sizing of this watch and the design that I think really punches through. The textured dial on the version that I had was incredible for the price, and this automatic Citizen can be picked up for around $100, and there simply aren't many Japanese brand automatic watches that you can pick up for around this price. The bracelet was absolutely terrible, so make sure you pick up a good strap for the watch, but if you want an occasional wear dress watch that's made by a big brand, then I think that this Citizen definitely should be on your radar. Again, sticking with the affordable budget, this next watch can be picked up for as little as $50, and this watch super surprised me when I got it in for review. This is the Addiesdive AD2030, a watch that combines a Rolex style case with a Grand Seiko style dial. It has a beautiful wave textured dial that glistens and changes depending on the direction of light, and even though this does feature a quartz movement, it's a mecha quartz, so you get a nice smooth sweep. The build quality is fantastic for this low price. You get solid end links, a mil clasp, but more than anything, it's that beautiful dial that's making this watch stand out at this price point. Now, if you're a big fan of field watches, and specifically smaller field watches, then this next watch might spark your attention. This is the Old Smith by Japanese microbrand Kuoe. Now, this field watch is clearly inspired by like the Dirty Dozen watches from World War II, but Kuoe have definitely put their own spin on things a little bit. The numerals are applied, and you can get some fantastic dial colors with this model. These watches are completely made in Japan, which is one of the biggest selling points of buying this Kuoe watch. It is only small at 35mm, so do be careful with that, but I really did enjoy reviewing this Kuoe watch earlier this year. Next up is a watch that I didn't actually own for a long time. I instantly fell in love with it and wore it for like a week straight, but then I fell out of love with it even quicker. The Hamilton Khaki Navy is a dive style watch. It comes with a 37mm case, and it only has a quartz movement, but when I first put this watch on wrist, the size was absolutely perfect for me. I enjoyed that it was a little bit thinner than most dive watches, but it did only have 100 meters of water resistance. I pretty much regretted selling this one as soon as I packaged it up and sent it, and it's a watch that I've actually been stalking to maybe buy back. Mr. Jones is a brand that I have a huge amount of respect for. This is a micro brand based in London, England, that are making their watches by hand in the UK. Yes, they do import parts from Asia, like their movements and their cases, but all of the artistic work is taking place down in London. Their designs are weird, wacky, and wonderful, and I know some of you will think they're absolutely crazy, but for an occasional wear piece, I think that they are a lot of fun. Now, one watch that really shocked me is one that I reviewed recently, that being the Baltany 1921. This watch is just a knockoff of the Vacheron Constantin 1921, but I think that Baltany did a good job with this homage. The details on the watch were really good, and for a very weird watch, I actually quite enjoyed wearing it. You guys know that I'm not a massive fan of homage watches, but I think this one was rather tasteful. It's not a watch that I would personally wear often, but I think as an occasional wear piece, it's pretty damn cool. A fantastic GMT watch that I reviewed recently was the Borealis Estoril. This is a watch by a Portuguese microbrand, and these guys took the Miyota 9075 automatic movement and they put it in a Seamaster 300 style case. However, these guys did something a little bit crazy and put some absolutely nutty colours on the dial. The version that I had was Tiffany blue and orange, and it was a super fun summer watch. It featured an on-the-fly adjustment, which is always good to have, and the watch just felt so premium in the hands. This watch is quite expensive for around $500, but I think that the spec sheet on offer is fantastic value, especially when you consider that you're supporting a European microbrand. Now, I've actually tried quite a few different G-Shocks this year. The first one I tried was the classic square, the DW5600, and I liked it, but it just wasn't for me. The next one I tried was the Casio. Similar sort of story. I liked it a little bit, but I didn't really fall in love with it. But when I picked up the GMS 5600, everything changed. This is a smaller steel G-Shock. The stainless steel case comes in at 38mm, and the lug-to-lug is really compact at 44mm. And this is one of the thinnest, fully capable G-Shocks that you can buy. This G-Shock is just so comfortable to wear. And after owning this G-Shock, I now understand the G-Shock hype. It's a watch that feels incredibly tough on wrist, that you don't have to baby it whatsoever, but it's just got that super cool, rugged, tough look, and I love it. Another field watch that I reviewed recently was the Vario 1945 D12. This is a watch that is very much inspired by the Dirty Dozen watches from World War II. Vario, though, definitely did their own little spin on this style of watch. They added a textured dial, the Vario branding was embossed into the dial, and even small touches like the crown being down at the 4 o'clock was nice to see. This watch was only 37mm, so it fit me like an absolute dream. Vario is quickly becoming one of my favourite micro brands in the world. They just have such a cool vintage aesthetic going on throughout their whole catalogue, and I have a lot of respect for the watches that they produce. Okay, next up we have the only chronograph featured on this list. Now, I was actually quite shocked when I realised that I've not reviewed many chronographs this year. This is the Straton Sportiva, a chronograph that is very much inspired by the idea of racing chronographs, but it takes a very vintage approach in its design. It features an incredible dial that almost looks like wood, but it's the vintage vibes of this watch that just shine through more than anything else. It's a bit wacky with that squared K shape, and even though this watch is 38mm, it wears like a 40 or 41. In my opinion, it's hard to find a really good chronograph around the $500 mark. There's definitely a few out there, but they're hidden gems. But for me, the Straton Sportiva is definitely one of the best around this price point. It has great specs and a great look that you can't really find anywhere else. Another of my favourite watches this year comes from Baltany again, this time though an original design. This is the Baltany Bronze Bezel Diver. Yes, not a traditional diver because it doesn't have a dive time bezel. Instead, this watch has a bronze bezel that is engineered inside of the steel case. Now, typically when brands combine two different case colours, it's usually gold-plated steel with just regular stainless steel. However, I really enjoyed the look of bronze and steel together. I think that the contrast between each section just looks amazing, and Baltany did a fantastic job with those steel studs on the bezel. But the main thing I appreciated about this watch is the original design element. This watch has a little bit of inspiration from Oris, Tudor, maybe even Panerai, but I've never seen a watch that has a bronze bezel inside of a steel case like this. I just think that the overall look is so bloody good, and you won't really be able to find a watch that looks like this from any other brand. And this next watch is by a brand that's already featured so far today. Vario decided to enter the dress watch market. However, they did something that's completely amazing. The Vario Versa is a reversible dress watch. Yes, it flips just like the JLC Reverso, but instead of flipping side to side, the Vario Versa flips inside of its case. You push in the top of the dial and the case flips around and you have a second dial. It's hard to find a watch full stop that has this sort of mechanism. I know that Cartier did something similar, and obviously JLC with the Reverso, but there's not really many else. So when I saw this watch by Vario, I was massively intrigued. I wanted to see how well Vario had executed such a difficult complication, and I have to say, they did it very well. The Vario Versa is a fantastic dress piece at this price. The attention to detail is absolutely fantastic, and both of the dials are incredible to look at. Now, I've only reviewed a couple of Seikos this year, and one of them has actually made it into this list. list. This is a watch that doesn't look like any other Seiko, and you might find a common theme throughout the watches that I like. I tend to like watches that are a little bit weird that you won't really find anywhere else. This is one of the only Seikos that comes with a distressed case. The case basically looks like it's already 10 years old. It's beaten up, scratched, dinged, but it looks amazing. The dial too resembles the surface of the moon with cracks and craters along the surface. I like the colour of this watch, it's grey and dark. I just think for a Seiko tool watch, this watch delivers what you'd expect. It's not trying to be dressy like the other Seiko models. It's very much trying to be something that's a little bit different, and I think it's really cool. The most expensive watch that we'll be featuring on today's video is this one by Atowak. The best way I can describe the Tarantula is a hyper watch. This is a watch that has a wandering hour complication. The disc spins in the center of the dial and flips over every hour, but it's the amount of details on this watch that really make it amazing. It's clear that Atowak got every single part of this watch made specifically for this model. They didn't take any off-the-shelf parts and just throw them together. This watch took some genuine research and development, and that is not a cheap thing to do. And for a large, wacky watch, it actually wore very well, even on my tiny wrist. It is expensive, coming in close to £2,000, but I think that the package that Atowak are offering with this watch is something that you won't really find from anywhere else. Some of you may be surprised to see a Casio so far up this list, but this is a watch that I thoroughly enjoy. The Casio AQ-230 is a watch that doesn't really get much coverage here on YouTube, but it's a watch that I absolutely think should. This watch, in its regular form, just looks like any other Casio. It comes on a folded link bracelet that pulls your arm hairs out and causes you sadness. But when you put a strap on this watch, it completely changes the look. It takes just a regular $30 Casio and turns it into a beautiful $30 watch. This $30 Casio with a leather strap resembles the Cartier Tank, with its case shape and dial design. Now, this watch was in my collection for a while, however it has been stolen by my girlfriend, and even though she herself has a collection of around 10 watches, the Casio AQ-230 is the watch that she wears almost every single day. It's lightweight, it looks gorgeous, it's cheap as chips, it's one of my favourite watches of the year. Now, the next watch is another watch that I reviewed very recently, but this watch blew my socks off when I reviewed it. The Wise Adamascus is a spec monster. Wise use the same grade of stainless steel as the likes of Rolex. They don't use the industry standard 316L, instead they use 904L. This grade of steel is more corrosion resistant and you can get a higher polish with it, which you could really tell with how good that polishing was on the watch. The movement was a Miyota 9000 series, which allowed this 200-meter dive watch to be super thin at just 11.5mm. For a 41mm watch, it wore incredibly well. The details on the dial were amazing, and I genuinely think that this is one of the best affordable dive watches that money can buy. Now, this next watch has received some criticism online, but it is one of my favourite watches of the year. I was super shocked when I reviewed the Citizen Tsuyosa. I wasn't really expecting much from this watch. Yes, they do make some great watches, but in my opinion, they don't really compete with the microbrands. However, the Tsuyosa for me does compete. The finishing on the watch was incredible. The 40mm case fits way better than the PRX. The movement inside of the watch is gold, which is always nice to see, and the sapphire crystal and sapphire cyclops means that this watch will look clear for years to come. More than anything, it's just the look of this watch that I really enjoyed. It's hard to find an integrated bracelet sports watch under $500 that delivers what the Tsuyosa does. For me, the best watch that I've reviewed this year is the Phoebus Wavemaster GMT. Now, I know some of you will be thinking, but you've just talked about 19 incredible watches, how is this one possibly number one? It's hard to explain exactly why I like this watch so much. I just do. I think the colours of the watch work really well together. The details are great, especially on the dial. The fit of the watch was incredible, and the watch just felt so good in hand. I think that it's one of, if not the best affordable GMT watches that you can buy. Phoebus did a fantastic job with this watch, and that's kind of confirmed by the fact that it's pretty much sold out everywhere. But what was your favourite watch from this list? Let me know down in the comments. However, if you would like to see me rank 20 different watch brands, then I definitely think you should go and watch my video here where I do that, and I'll see you over there. Bye for now.